would stand and are willing and able to run and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank our commissioners and those in attendance and the public for coming tonight. We appreciate your interest. Commissioners, in front of you we have an agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any additions or corrections or updates? Seeing none, I'd like a motion that the agenda be approved.
So moved.
Second.
First and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion? Opposed? Seeing none, we will move on. You also have in your packets minutes from last month's June meeting of the 26th. Are there any updates, corrections, or additions to those minutes as they were submitted?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Julie, second.
Support.
Any comments? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are carried. Thank you very much, commissioners, and thank you for taking the Martha and doing this great job. Next on our agenda is public comment. If you would like to say something, please step to the microphone, give us your name and address, and hold your comments to roughly 3 minutes.
Peter Stevens, 7500 Trotters Lane. I've reviewed the keeping of animals ordinance. I think it's a great step forward. If this is what was going to the board and I'd vote for it because it's something. It's taking a step to get something done. With that said, there's a few little changes I can see in here. Under the general prohibitions and allowances, I do not believe that number 3, vicious animal, should even be a line item under that section, especially without any kind of definition for what is defined as a vicious animal. I think vicious is a human construct. I don't think any animal is inherently vicious or can have that applied to them. Second, number 2, on wild or exotic animals, I think this is overly restrictive. At least since wild and exotic animals are already permitted by the county and everything, I believe that section could just say as permitted by higher authorities. Because at least as reading this, I feel as though unless I am getting a permit for a rehabilitation use for my boa constrictor, I would have to get rid of it. And boa constrictors you can buy at pretty much any pet shop throughout Ann Arbor or the state of Michigan. The roosters, I don't think needs to have the less than 5 acres net area, especially if that's going to be mostly used for broiler chickens. And for the lot area requirements and densities, it looks like that entire section can basically just be condensed down to from 1 to 5 acres with all of these same densities for those sizes of plots. They're all the same between the 1 and 1.99 and 2 and 4.99. Aside from just removing the large livestock for the 1 to 1.99, I would think even on 1.5 or just shy of 2 acres, you ought to be able to keep a cow, a pig, something like that. Which goes into, I think, one of the last points I would feel that would just make this ordinance a little bit more friendly for the community. I don't believe that young individuals engaging in 4-H should need to apply to the zoning administrator for a permit to have that animal to do their 4-H program. If they're in 4-H, let them do their 4-H, let them have their animals. 4-H attendance has been down the last few years, but slowly rising. We should make it easier for people to engage in those activities. yes, I would say get this passed, if nothing else. It's a wonderful step forward, and it allows more people to keep more animals in the township. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Robert Sane, 7050 Jennings Road. I'm going to go back a few years when we were talking about the road, Jennings Road, and going to the park, and the township was going to add to the road, and they added 10 inches of limestone or gravel to increase the road, and it made a huge difference in the potholes and traffic that goes down there. But in the past, I don't know how many years it's been there, it's been graded, pretty much the road's wider than it used to be. And that very on-ramp from North Territorial on the Jennings Road is, it could just rain one time and we have potholes this deep, because when people are coming off, then that's when they accelerate and they're creating huge holes there. I mean, I know it's just an issue for people that live down that road, but the park's down that road, and now we went down this road years ago while fixing it, but I just didn't know if there's a way to increase that leadway. I know everybody was talking about between the park, the township, and the county, they were gonna all pitch in and pave the road, and it never happened. The solution was to add the gravel, and that worked out great, but now it's been graded down pretty far, and the potholes are getting worse again, and it's almost to where it's mud again, where before, once they first laid the, I don't know, 21A or whatever they laid on the road, it fixed it for a few, I don't know, at least 2 years, I know for sure, until it started just grading out, and now it's back, the road's lower again, and the mud's coming back through the base of the gravel that they laid, so I don't know what can be done about that.
Have you been to the board meetings?
No. I've been coming to my rest of the park now, I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta find out how to figure this out. I just got on the calendar, and but then the meetings were from May, and I couldn't find last month's notes or anything, so I'm not sure. Is this meeting about the ordinance of the livestock and everything, or is this?
It's ordinances, but not roads.
Okay.
I would bring this up at a board meeting,
Okay.
which was yesterday.
The next one is on July 29th.
Yeah.
29th? Okay, will the commission, road commission be here?
No, the road commission does not attend this.
Oh,
We do have a representative, so,
okay.
and it's a combined effort between the Washington Road Commission and the township.
And I can find all the meeting notes about the livestock and ordinance on the website, or is it?
Oh, yeah. All of the documents that are in our packets and the board documents and minutes are online.
I know when we first moved out here, our deed said that we're allowed around like 3.5 acres. It said like 1 cow, 3 pigs or goats, and it said chickens. It didn't say how many chickens, but I know there was something back then. But, all right, thanks.
Sure, thank you. Anybody else have any comments to offer at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to the township board report, and I assume there is not one tonight since our representative, Mr. Westman, is not here. We will not have a board report tonight. ZBA, Rick, anything from you tonight?
No, we haven't had a meeting, but we have,
What, do you have a board report?
No, I got a day off from board meeting last night, but I know there was a private road maintenance agreement on the agenda that was there.
Okay.
And,
They spoke about parking lot funding.
Okay.
basically last night, they approved, different things on the parking lot that overruns of expenses that, have come up, and I don't have the figures in front of me, but
That's okay.
John might know.
We can wait till next month.
Okay.
Or we can read the minutes that are posted online. Would either of you like to speak?
Sure, I'd like to speak. We, like Sri said, we did review the private road agreement, Pot Stripe, and with certain changes, it'll be administratively approved, and parking lot, and that needs to be cut out and replaced with stone. There was an error in the bid documents relating to the French drain that's right behind the windows there and go out beyond where the concrete is. Instead of the 20-foot, it was supposed to say 200 feet, so the quantities were different. We approved that change, and we delayed two other invoices of payment. One has to do with the caulking of the seams in the parking lot. We wanted to know what kind of technique was going to be used on the seams, and we received that information today. And the other had to do with the engineering invoice. It was confusing to know where we stand on that based on the spreadsheet. And we will be considering both of the postponements on July 29th at our special meeting. I think that's most of the agenda that we had last night. We were done at 8 o'clock.
I've been trying, we're taking that as a challenge.
That's a challenge. I would like to say one thing for the people that are here tonight. We are having a problem in terms of dealing with the lighting. It may be 2 weeks to a month before the lights outside work. So be careful, bring your flashlights if you're planning on staying until 10 o'clock at night.
Thank you, Supervisor Kingsley. Appreciate the update. Okay, Rick, back to you, ZBA report. Sorry about that.
We have not had a meeting since our last meeting. We have two variance requests coming up, and that's scheduled
August 7th.
August 7th. And I think they're both of them are expanding non-conforming.
Thank you. Sri, did you have something to add?
Oh, no, it's just nodding.
Okay.
Number 7.
Pardon me?
Go ahead, number 7.
I was going to get to her because, oh, so it's okay. She can't see, so I make sure she. Sri, I apologize. It wasn't intentional. Would you like to give your report, please?
Yeah, I think I did include the report this time, make sure it's there. And I also left hard copies of the last month's reports in your mailbox. The one, it just has been business as usual. One thing that's exciting is we have the billing.net online now, so we have a one-stop solution to track permits and track inspections and have all the information in the computer, so I'm very excited about that. Other than that, it's just been mostly ordinance amendments, a few permits, and then just a couple of administrative inventory updates.
Thank you. Any questions for the zoning administrator while you're? Yes, sir.
Have you talked to the attorney about the attached and situation?
Like I said, no, I did not get a chance to go in detail because I had other things I was talking to him, but I will get a response before the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have asked her to share that with us since we're the ones who forwarded that document for the board approval. I think we should have it in our packet in minutes since we're the ones who gave it a yes. So she said she would do that when she hears from me.
So, do you want to look at it before we place that on board's agenda, or, because usually they meet before you guys?
It might be helpful to just send a copy to us so we know what,
Okay,
because if we go to that meeting and we have questions asked,
sure.
it would be good to have that in our pocket.
I'm just trying, if not, I can put it on the next meeting and get that to you.
I'd just like to be ready since it's on their agenda for any questions they might have.
I'll send out an email.
Thank you. Natural Features Committee. Okay.
I'll save my comments when we talk about the NRD brochure.
Okay.
We did meet.
Thank you very much. And if anybody wants to applaud or give Kay a gold star tonight, she is working above and beyond. She has 2 broken bones. As you can see, she's in a wheelchair, but she did all of the work and prepared a number of documents and has appeared before us for the entirety of the evening. So, yay, Kay.
I had a little bit of time left.
We do not have a public hearing tonight, but we do have some old business, which is keeping of animals. And I challenge us to do it in a half an hour. So, Sri has before us a draft that we agreed to at the last meeting that should have minimal revisions to it. I do have some from Commissioner Westman, who he sent to me, and I'll go through them as we review the document.
Actually, I'd like to point out we never had a motion at the last meeting.
No, we did not.
And we never agreed to all these things. We discussed things.
I understand
So
that.
there might still be a few things that we can resolve tonight.
I get it. We have numbers. So, Sri, do you want to give any updates before we go through the sections one by one?
No, I think I raised a couple of questions in the memo because, like Member Strandler mentioned, there was no conclusive findings. So I just raised some questions, and then the revisions that were included in the draft, I based on what my interpretation of the discussion has been. And like always, I have some notes in red. Those are placeholders. And we also, in the memo, we also have summary prepared by Member Strandler after researching multiple ordinances, which essentially states that each community should do what works for them. I'm here if you have any questions as part of your discussion to provide clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you. So why don't we start at the beginning, and we'll go back through the document and discuss anything that anybody wants to discuss. On page 11 of 36 is where we can start with intent. Are there any changes that we want to? I got input from Commissioner Westman, who does not believe that we need that section at all. Although that's a little bit of a change from what we've done with other ordinances. In his mind, in this case, there isn't a need for intent. Thoughts? That's all he said.
Because I think we put it in every single one of our ordinances that we've revised in the past 6 years that I've been on the commission.
I understand, it's just his, I'm providing his input in abstention.
I think it's important to talk about it not creating a nuisance, because I think, especially for these small lots, what's critical is balancing the rights of landowners to have animals, and also their neighboring landowners who may or may not have animals, and they're in close proximity. So I think that's the key. It's not about can I hear them, it's about how loud. It's not about can I smell them, it's about how smelly. It's about nuisances, that sort of balance. So that's why I think it's important.
Commissioners, any thoughts, additional thoughts?
I thought of an argument against it. I think it belongs there.
Please be sure to speak up, by the way. I mean, I know Kay,
Oh, sorry.
she needs to get it. So we agree to keep A, intent. Any comments or changes on education and training, section B? Julia, any periods or commas?
No, that I don't.
Keep section B as is. C, applicability for accessory use. Anything there we want to look at or revise?
I want to do like accessory use only.
Pardon me?
You looking at all three of those, just the first one?
Just accessory use first. No changes to accessory use, thank you. Other uses, number 2, C2.
We need to add a space in number 4 before the number 2. Section space 2.
Oh. You see that?
There's a definition called intensive livestock operation. Sri, is this the place where you'd reference that, or you?
I had that reference before, but then Ryan suggested that it is its own primary use, not an accessory use.
Oh, okay.
So,
So we're okay with C2?
Well, then, I'm back to, okay, so number 2 says other uses. It doesn't say it's not an accessory use, it's other uses.
oh, right, sorry. To expand on that clarification, intense livestock occupation has some connectivity with the right to farm and all the other issues. So he did suggest some clarifications to be added to our ordinance as well. So I removed it from now because that's something we need to address at some point. Not a priority, but to be addressed at some point.
Okay.
A little unrelated, but since we are at the word definition, I just wanted to say that the definitions included in the draft are just the ones that are new to be added. So there are some existing definitions. For example, vicious animal. We do have a definition for that.
So we're okay with C2. Any other discussion on C2? C3. I do have a comment from Mr. Westman. He suggests in the first line where it reads, farming operations that conform with, he would like to say conform to or are in compliance with the Michigan Department of Agriculture. I like that actually myself.
I think I would probably recommend conform to, because Mike Wozniak suggested that because it's not a code, there's no compliance, it's just conformance.
Right. But it's compliance with the MDOT.
The GAMS are something they refer to as conformance. He said that's
Oh. So
it's
just
a conformance with MDOT GAMS.
So farming operations that conform to
Right.
or with.
Right. I think I'm okay with whatever makes sense to or with, but Mike was very specific about using the word conform against compliance.
No, I agree. What do you want to change to conform to and in compliance with?
Oh, no, conform to,
Okay, no compliance.
no compliance.
Thoughts?
Which is also right, but
Yes, I remember reading that from Mike.
Okay, any other thing on C3 then? Okay, general prohibitions and allowances. Mr. Stevens had a question about wild and exotic animals.
We don't have a definition for exotic, but we do have a definition for wild animal.
Right.
So in our current ordinance, we allow this on 5 acres or above, I think? Do we remember why we changed it? Was there a rationale?
I think it went through just a lot of discussion, and then, I'm not exactly quite sure, but it did go through a lot of discussion where we included the specific use of rehabilitation. I do want to add the vicious animal part. The draft indicates that no circumstances a vicious animal shall be kept in residential districts. That's consistent with the current ordinance. This current ordinance doesn't have any prohibition for vicious animals in agricultural districts.
Only in residential.
Mr. Westman added a comment there. He does not believe they should be allowed in either AG, ag, or AB districts. In addition to residential districts.
Is it that comment agreeing with number 2? That what he's saying?
No.
No. No, he didn't have any comment on number 2. His was on number 3. But the only reason I mentioned is Sri brought it up.
Okay.
So he thinks they should not be allowed in residential or ag,
Correct.
number 3.
Just none of it. I have no feeling one way or another on it. Anybody have a strong opinion? Comment? You had your chance to speak. You get it later.
What does our current ordinance say?
It says no sheep, swine, goats, cows, poultry, alpacas, or exotic animals. To include but not limited to snake, python, monkey, and others. Any canine, hybrid of any of the above animals shall be housed in R1, R2, the usual stuff. So it didn't mention exotic. I mean, it mentioned exotic, it didn't say wild animals are permitted.
That's what it was.
But so this is the same as our current ordinance, right?
Right.
So it just stays silent on ag.
The current, let me just take a step back.
So we're talking about 2 or 3 now?
Right, that's what I was going to
Yeah.
ask. Let's talk about 2.
Okay.
Because you asked, the current animal says exotic animals are permitted in ag, or R1 over 5 acres. And the draft says wild or exotic animals shall not be permitted in any district unless permitted through a license. I think I would probably recommend look at the definition for wild or exotic animals in the current draft. It says any animal not native or commonly found in the wild. Let me see what the definition is in the current ordinance. Any animal not domesticated by humans or an animal that a person is prohibited from possessing by law. That's the definition for wild animal. The wild or exotic is consistent with how more communities have treated, they put both wild and exotic, in one category. But I do notice that in the current draft, the wild animals are defined separately, and the exotic animals are not defined. We just indicated some examples of exotic animals.
Well, I don't know that we're ever going to define every one of them.
Right, no, just putting what's existing out there for your discussion.
Does anybody think we should have an amalgam of our current definition and the new one?
Which would what?
It would be a little more inclusive as she read with our current definition of wild and add the wild portion to it. And then continue with the permitted or licensed portion. Because that's not mentioned in the current draft, or current definition.
Right, exotic animals are permitted in ag about 1/5 acres, but there's no mention of wild animals in the current ordinance.
Are there county laws, state laws about this too?
I think there's a general prohibition of wild or exotic animals. That's the reason why I combined them into one. And now that I recall, that's how the discussion started. And then they said, okay, county allows certain wild or exotic animals if they're for rehabilitation or other purposes, if they get the proper licenses. And that's how it kind of went from that to that.
I recall that discussion too, when we were deferring to county, state, or federal licenses required for certain kind of animals, sort of backing off any enforcement that we would have, because we won't know what they are. So are we saying we leave it as is in the draft?
Because it's consistent with,
The state.
State, right. Okay.
that's good to know.
And also really, like the chair mentioned, we're leaving the enforcement to a higher agency.
So D number 3, vicious animals.
For your reference, the current definition says any animal that attacks, bites, or injures human beings or domesticated animals without adequate provocation, or that because of temperament, conditioning, or training has a known propensity to attack, bite, or injure human beings or domesticated animals. That's the definition for vicious. And the language is consistent with current ordinance.
You, go ahead.
Are there county or state ones about this too?
I'm not aware of any. I may have to look into that. I think it just comes down to safety, and you don't want people to be attacked.
Do we think we should consider adding ag, as Mr. Westman proposes?
I think it makes sense. I did wonder why the current one didn't include that.
I don't have any strong knowledge or feeling about it.
I don't either, but Mr. Westman did.
All districts then?
Yeah. Why don't we just say
But
all?
how do you, because you might get a guard dog, are people going to consider that vicious? Because the guard dog could be just friendly as can be until they're provoked.
And that becomes vicious, and
Yeah.
then
Then
they
there's
come
an
and take
issue.
them away and issue. Well, anything could be vicious in the wrong circumstance. A rabbit, watch Monty Python. There's killer rabbits in Monty Python. We're going overboard on this, guys.
But a lot of people get
I understand that, but we're,
just to guard.
Let's keep it simple.
I think it comes down to, from an enforcement perspective, if there's a continuous, repeated actions of viciousness, then
I think our definition in our ordinances applies to anything that attacks a human being. So then you call the sheriff, and the sheriff comes over and goes, hey, bad dog, a bad cat, bad rabbit. But again, it's not our purview to, somebody, all districts?
All districts shall be kept in, under no circumstances shall a vicious animal be kept in any district.
Right.
We're gonna have a hearing about this too, right?
Yes, we are. Okay, keeping of bees.
Don't look at me.
Okay. I'll look at Connie. I understand. Any comments on the bee section?
No.
D5, acres net because that's open to discussion.
That's consistent with the current ordinance, because the current ordinance has no restriction on roosters. They're considered poultry and allowed in parcels ag on R1 over 5 acres.
So I found some data to address this question. When a rooster crows, it clocks in at 130 decibels, which is the equivalent of a jet engine. This is much higher than other sort of residential uses, like dog barking, 90 decibels, lawnmower, 90, loud television or passing cars, 70. And since we don't need to have any roosters, to have a few chickens, I would say, why accept something that's clearly far and above the noise level of anything else? So, no roosters, please. Balance.
Anybody? We've talked about chickens and roosters added, but this has been 3 years of discussion on this.
These are residential use areas, small lots.
I understand that.
And roosters are not required to have any chickens,
I understand that.
so.
You want more chickens there. You want to correct the grammar there, it's roosters, shall, not rooster.
Sure. I'd like to get through this just like, are we saying yes or no?
They're included.
Are we agreeing, no roosters?
They're vicious.
You're saying if you have a farm on 160 acres, you can't have roosters?
Yeah, you can.
On our farm.
This is 5 acres, it's only
It's
5
less
acres.
than 5 acres
Less than
only.
5 acres. Are we good with the definition then that is written?
What about peacocks or lower than roosters?
So probably guineas too.
They're not on our list, so they're not even in question here.
There should be.
Are we okay? Would somebody please? We're gonna be, if we're here past 9 o'clock on this, I'm gonna suspend the meeting. We've talked about roosters for, I'm not kidding, 3 years, folks.
Yeah,
Make a decision.
I'm good. Then I'm gonna give up on the meat on roosters because I could not find a good definition to define what I've been talking about for a year. So it's just
Okay.
no meat for roosters either.
So we're good with D5 as it's written, except for adding S to rooster.
yes.
Thank you very much. E, general conformance. Any comments or changes on number 1, conformance to other applicable standards? Seeing no comments, E2, nuisance. Comments? Seeing none. E, site condominiums or subdivisions. Mr. Westman does have a question, and I don't have an answer for it. I don't think Sheree does tonight either. His question is, do we have any unplatted subdivisions in Webster Township?
Unplatted, I mean, we do have some land divisions,
Right. What
which are
we do,
unplatted, meets and bounds.
should we add unplatted in here also?
Unplatted would mean meets and bounds by default.
Okay. So we don't need to add unplatted.
Because we do have something that says if you have an association and they have any covenants and restrictions.
Right.
So they're covered there.
Okay. Turning to page 12 of 38. Net lot area. Changes or comments there? Seeing no comments or changes, we'll move on to G, lots with net areas of 5 acres or more. The 5 acres or more is in red, which was the discussion point that we had not agreed on at our last meeting.
I thought the discussion was, do we keep it the way it is now? And the way it is used now is 5 net acres or more.
Right.
And I'm in favor of that. Yeah, that's what it says.
discussion point
Yeah,
last
so-
meeting, so.
I'm saying, I like it the way it's written. I don't know what other people think.
Anybody else? Julie? Paul?
Okay, so it's, in the text, it should say 5 acres or more. You've got the word or more in the text. It's 1325B, not D.
Oh, yeah, let's go back over that, so.
Wait a minute.
E. E, like a, don't do chickens.
Oh,
And the 5 acres or more, it's on the second line at the end.
Right.
the second time or more. See it on the second line, second line.
Oh.
Right at the end of the second line, or more.
Can I offer a suggestion? Just to be consistent how it's written in the next two sections. We can just say keeping of animals on such lots. Because the title talks about 5 acres or more. That's how I have it drafted for H and I. Instead of repeating the acres, I just said such lots.
Put it on such lots.
Will the average person walking through the door understand that?
If you want to keep it that way, then I'll just change it on the other two. Just want to be consistent.
I think I'd take out such.
Okay, then I'll
Write it up.
write it out.
Okay, so with those changes, we're okay with G. That would include or more at the end of line 2 and E, correct, Paul, at the last line?
Yeah.
Okay, on to H, lots with net areas of 2 to 4.99 acres. As agreed just a minute ago, we're taking out the word such in the first sentence. And we're still talking about the maximum number of things on certain areas, which is in red on your draft.
The first thing I brought up in the last meeting was, I know there's a lot, she had out that matrix last week, pie chart, and a lot of properties that are probably 2 acres, and then when you subtract out the right of way, there's probably a couple hundred lots that, even though they think they have 2 acres, from this they have less. So I suggested maybe dropping this to 1.75 acres, so that group of people that have 2 acre lots can have these animals. That was a suggestion. I'm just throwing that out. You want to include a couple hundred more people on this that are in 2 acre lots.
For the net area you're talking about.
Yeah.
Thoughts, commissioners?
I would prefer to keep it at 2 acres. It's a lot size that we have, a lot size minimum. If you look at the other zoning ordinances, only, there's 12, and 4 of them don't allow livestock on less than 5 acres. 7 out of the remaining 8 do allow small livestock, but they don't allow them on like less than 2 acres. There's only 1 township that does that. So I like this category of, and the animals we have for 2 to 5 acres. I think it makes sense, and I don't think we need to, I don't want to make it more complicated.
But to Paul's point, what do we do about the net acreage?
You go to the next category. Then that group of people has, on I, it says net acreage 1 to 1.99. There's a category for that.
Yeah, but they can have small livestock.
True.
All right, so you got at least a couple hundred people who want 2 acre lots of ag. You're gonna tell them they can't have a couple sheep or a couple goats.
So one of my questions here where it says small, when it says C 13.25K, for the, on the one chart for H, it says large livestock and for the small. Does that mean you can only have those for for the educational purposes.
Right, that was my notes from the last meeting, but as you mentioned, nothing was concluded, so it's up for discussion, yes.
So my concern again is balancing the rights of people to have animals in a residential use area with small lots and their neighbors. And to me, the big things are noise and smell. And the main way, yes, we can have setbacks, those are important. Yes, we can have some guidance about enclosures and things, but the main way you control that is by numbers of animals. So I feel like when I look at all the other ordinances that are trying to do this balance, that keeping it from 2 to 5 acres is consistent with other areas that are similar to ours.
Are they using net?
Some are, some don't say.
The ones that don't say, don't do it then.
I don't know.
If they don't say, you don't do it.
So I think livestock on really small lots, is that necessary? No, residential use area. I understand that people want to grow food on their own property. So they can have a few animals of certain types. Why not start with that?
Anybody else comment? We've been through this so many times.
Yeah.
We've been through this once, and I think it's important. There are a lot of 2-acre lots that are going to be blocked out of this. And I particularly know of one that just went in, I just saw it in the last couple months, and I know it's a 2-acre lot. And they're not going to meet this ordinance as written. I'm not doing this for them,
Yeah.
but I gotta believe there's probably more like this.
For small livestock or large livestock?
No, not like livestock, small
Okay.
livestock.
Well,
And this doesn't,
I'm a little confused because in I, we talk about small livestock, smaller.
only for 4-H.
Only for
Oh, right, sorry. Right.
I think Paul's got a good point, because the minimum lot acres in Webster Township is 2 acres. So that's what a lot of acres are.
Excluding the
And when you
minimum
exclude
acreage.
the right of way.
Right.
And
So from my perspective, a lot of the lots that were created in these smaller sizes, they were created for residential use. That's how they are being used right now, residential use. So to me, they all fall into this residential use, and how do we balance that?
Just to give some context to that comment, if somebody wants to split a property in ag district, the minimum lot area is 2 acres, and that 2 acres excludes right-of-way and access easement. So if any property has a net acreage less than 2, then it's, in the current standards, even if it's zoned ag, it's considered non-conforming, because it doesn't meet the net 2 acre requirement for ag district.
Interesting.
So what if, and I know we've been around on this one too, if the hangup is 4-H, then on both H and I, remove that reference to 4-H.
Oh, that's not the name.
What would that would allow small livestock, no less than 2 acres?
Now you change the whole purpose was you put small livestock into section I-4. It's specifically there for 4-H only.
I guess.
But be careful, you take that out, now you put large livestock in on 2-acre lots.
so, Sheree, can you repeat that? So if you have the minimum 2 acres right now, that is net.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, I'm good with it.
So if you have an ag property that has net 1.75, it is considered non-conforming. It has to have a net 2 acres to be
Oh, is that
conforming.
right? Okay, but when you do developments,
Yeah.
you can go down to 1.5, or maybe smaller. Right. Well, it's not a consequence of that. Move on.
So where are we on the same way? It's the same discussion. Give or take, on I for lots of 1 to 1.99 acres.
So I'm good with that, I think, so chickens, people wanna have chickens, that works. And this is for small livestock, is for 4-H.
Okay.
So I like it when the categories are separated, because then I can go and look where do I fit into this? So, I'm good with that one too.
Commissioners, rest of you okay with that the way it is? Except for Paul.
I'm fine with I.
Okay,
I'm just-
okay,
It's a 2 to 1.75, it's still,
okay.
I'll concede.
Then on to J.
So everybody's okay with the quantities there?
That's what I was asking.
Okay.
For my clarity, I know you guys discussed the acreage categorization. Are you okay with the quantities?
That's what I was asking, and
Oh,
then
okay.
they said no changes on H and no changes on I.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
On to J.
So I think the reference at the end should be 1325N, not M or L. It's the wrong,
It's L,
Yeah.
to be permitted.
but, you know, okay, go ahead, finish.
And I don't like this. I don't like that someone has to come to the planning commission.
Well,
No,
So-
me neither.
No, it's M. I think
So J,
Oh.
so sorry,
We're on
we
J.
went on to, J says you have to come to the planning commission for less than 1 acre. We don't want to create this system where you have to come for a permit, so we want to just do it.
in that case, then we should probably come up with its own table as what's acceptable.
Yeah, so in that Washtenaw County recommendation, they said if you want to raise eggs for your family, you need like what, 5 or 6 chickens?
Yeah, it's at 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
4 to 6.
And that's pretty consistent with the densities we have
Oh,
for the others.
So then in that case, we could say lots with net acres, net area less than 1 acre, keeping a maximum of 6, 5.
We did 5 and everything
If it is
else.
5, that's consistent.
So 5 poultry.
Do we need a chart for that, or can we just write it out?
You can just write it out if it's just one fix it. Keeping of poultry and keeping on poultry on lots less than, net area less than 1 acre, zoned at AB and R1, may be permitted,
So I still want to
oh,
talk
no
about
more
the
than,
standard.
no more than 5, no more than 5
No more than
poultry
5.
is, shall be permitted on lots with a net area less than 1 acre zoned at AB and R1.
Okay. Sri, would you read that again, so, well, just so it's.
Okay, ready? In ag, AB, and R1 districts, no more than 5. In ag, AB, and R1 districts, no more than 5 poultry shall be permitted on lots with a net area less than 1 acre.
So, question, commissioners, you want it to be poultry, or you want it to be specifically chickens on these small lots? You want somebody having 5 geese, and a 1/4 acre lot, in like Alpine?
I'm okay with chickens. I mean, 6 people at the March 5th meeting said, I want to have chickens.
Well, my question is, this allows them to have any type of poultry.
Yeah, so I'm saying, I'm in favor of changing it to chickens. change it to chickens or?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Poultry chickens. Okay, moving on to K, animals for educational purposes.
I find this one good because we're asking an adult with a minor to take responsibility and they're getting to be able to do something that's special, that's not what everybody can do. So I think that's a positive thing for that one. But I don't know what other people think.
Oh,
Only thing I suggest is you add the club name, something you'd want information on.
that's a good idea.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The club, the 4-H club or the FAA or,
We had that in the last draft, I believe.
I think it was,
Yeah.
so you want the organization, the club name,
For example,
organization club.
F4H. Yeah.
4-H, Blue Ribbon.
But you're not gonna
Blue
catch them
ribbon
all.
livestock, yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna catch them all, but if you use, for example, 4H, you know,
It's just a club name.
Right.
And that's
You know where they're associated with.
correct.
yeah.
The Chelsea Steer Club, Chelsea Lamb.
Mr. Westman has this comment. Change the last sentence to, take out the word basically is noted, so that it reads the purpose of the request and the duration requested.
Yeah, the club name.
In the club.
Just remember, it is noted.
Just take out is noted. It's
Can
in
we-
the whole last sentence.
We can probably make it much simpler by saying request shall designate a responsible adult supervisor, club name, the purpose, and the duration of the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna go. So where are we? Take out is noted. Yep, just take out is noted, just take out is noted. And right there, put the club name. The purpose of the request and the duration requested, that's it. Are we okay with K then? Not that K, but K in the draft. On to L for waivers. You'll see and read the letter of permit more animals than the maximum allowed. Again, I'm concerned about the planning commission being the people to provide that waiver.
Yeah, okay. Strike it. That's it. We struck it last time in the last meeting.
Yeah. And I thought the purpose of this was more like, if you don't quite fall into one of these categories, because you have some special circumstance. When it says, when it invites people to just apply for more animals, I think that's not good. I thought it was sort of, if you don't fit, if you.
If you have a
If you
two-acre
have
lot,
PDR.
you have no one, you have PDR land all the way around you,
Yeah,
you
so
don't have any neighbors.
it was more like if you have a situation that doesn't really fit into one of these other categories, but also, are we the ones to do this? I don't think so. And that's why I wanted to revisit some of the standards that we talked about at 10 o'clock at night.
Can you rephrase your question? When you say are we the one to do this, do you mean are you the guys who can issue waivers?
Yes, the planning commission.
If it's written in the ordinance, yes, you can. You do have the authority similar to waivers that are related to landscape design. So the reason why that was included in there for your discussion is that it was brought up by a couple of residents, but during my conversations that going to a zoning board of appeals is an expense both financially because it includes an $815 fee. So they were just asking if there's anything that can be less discretionary.
I thought we talked last time, but could it be administrative? And I thought the answer was, if there were standards to be used for that, it could be administrative.
Okay.
That's where I thought we
So
were too.
that's what I like, that avenue.
Oh, you're coming before us every time.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at that before the next meeting for administrative.
So maybe when we talk about standards, because I thought she had said that if it's going to be administrative, she would want to make sure she had some standards that made sense to use. So maybe we can talk about those and see.
Right, so that it's not just one person's opinion, who is in my place, it's based on context.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the conclusion for that one? Is there one?
The conclusion is that we're gonna rewrite it based on standards, that it'll be administrative. But we're gonna need a rewrite on it. We okay to move on to M then? Anything with zoning compliance permits? I don't believe anything was changed from the last one.
Actually, I think we need to change this because we just said on less than 1 acre, you can have 5 chickens. So,
We just remove that on lots greater than 1 acre. At the end of first sentence.
So you're just gonna stop in residential districts,
Yes.
take out all lots greater than 1 acre or more.
I think we can even take away, permit is not required for keeping of animals as an accessory use, because
yeah.
the
Okay.
entire ordinance keep referencing where they can have it or not.
Right, okay. You're taking a lot of the house. And that's just period. This comes out.
Just keeping the whole beginning of the sentence, a permit is not required, or maybe.
So the period just goes there, everything else goes there.
What did you keep down?
Yeah, what are you keeping and taking out?
Stop it at the end of use in the first sentence. And
A
then,
permit is not required for keeping animals as an accessory use.
period. Structures related to such use may require a permit. We okay to move on to N? I'm going to give Commissioner Westman's thought on this, and then his question is on site standards. One, is the sale of animal products really a site standard? Maybe this belongs elsewhere. And I thought that was a pretty good point myself.
I'll think more in terms of the roadside stand, but maybe that's a good point too. It can be on its own.
So we're removing one and renumbering it and then putting it separately. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Westman.
I do want to add one sentence after site standards, just to stating the obvious that all properties that keep animals shall comply with the following.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I want it to be all properties, not just less than 1 acre,
Right.
all.
Would you say that again so we can get it in the minutes, please?
Sure, right after the title site standards, we would say all properties that keep animals shall comply with the following standards.
Thank you. So moving on to page 13 of 36, number 2, which now becomes number 1, correct? I don't believe there's any change from our last one, this one. Okay.
I think we need more there about animal shelters. When I looked at the other ordinances, they all, well, not all, most of them had something more. And so on this paper, so when I summarized for the other ordinances, I didn't write down word for word, but on this paper, I wrote down word for word some of the things that they have. And the ones in bold are the ones that I sort of like. And some of them talk about that, so the issues are, again, smell and noise. So, for example, chickens don't smell, but their poop smells, and it produces an ammonia smell. So, but if it's if it gets wet, it smells more. You guys don't know, but I've been a chicken sitter and a duck sitter. You didn't know this about me. So this, some of them say chickens shall be provided with, and we have chickens on very small lots. Chickens shall be provided with a secure, well-ventilated roof, maybe not lockable, but those things, roofed and well-ventilated. Don't keep it so it doesn't get wet, so it doesn't stink. And then there's some about dealing with the waste materials. Down the third one I started, should be disposed of in an environmentally responsible manner. The materials can be composted or bagged and disposed in the trash. It's not acceptable to pile waste on the property. So in small lots, a little bit of guidance to reduce the nuisances of smell and noise, I think are valuable in, again, balancing the rights of those landowners.
We had this discussion at the last meeting.
At 10 o'clock,
I know.
sorry.
Well, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock, sorry. The discussion at that time was how do we enforce these?
I think if you get a complaint, and there's a complaint about the smell of the chickens, and there's no coop that's roofed, then you can say, oh, you need a roof. Or you can say, oh, are you storing it in these things? So it does, I agree we don't want to be too, we can't control everything, but if there are some specific, simple guidance, then if there's a complaint, you can deal with it.
I think it was George who brought up
Oh, so did I.
the issue of roofs.
I was looking at these, and I think the sixth one down, I'd be okay with. All animals should be properly housed and fenced so as not to be a public nuisance.
I like that.
The first one, you had chickens should be provided with secure, well-ventilated roof structure. Tell you what, if you don't roof their structure, neighbors won't have to worry about chickens. The raccoons, the hawks, the owls, chickens are gonna be gone. So I don't think we should be telling people how to build their structures. They're gonna find out. If they don't roof them, they're gonna be buying chickens every 6 weeks. And the one with waste materials, I called Waste Management and GFL, and it's illegal to put animal manure in the trash.
Okay.
So we should not be telling in our ordinance, dispose of it in the trash.
What about the last one then, about refuse and waste?
Where does that say? What last one?
It's the very last one on that page that I gave you. It says, "The refuse and waste resulting from maintenance of animals shall be controlled upon the premises and shall be cared for or disposed within a reasonable time so as to minimize hazards of health and offensive effects upon neighboring people and uses."
Yeah,
Okay?
that's, people that have the animals need to take the manure and work it into the ground. It becomes a nuisance if a rain comes and washes the manure into your neighbor's grass or yard. And they're gonna have some extremely green grass
Mhm.
at the moment, a certain time it's getting washed in there. Or give it to your neighbors in their garden.
Yeah.
So you're saying you would be okay with that as one of the standards? Is that what I'm understanding? 'Cause I'm okay with that. That's why I chose ones I liked, but I put a whole bunch down that sort of address the same topics.
Oh, I'm saying we should not tell them to do something that's illegal, which is dispose of it in the trash.
Okay, but the last one
I like
would be okay?
the last one better, for that reason also.
That's better.
And
The
then,
feed, the
Yeah.
rodent-proof containers, so I got bales of hay. I can't put hay in a rodent-proof container. 5 acre lots, let them go. They're not gonna wander too far. If they do, then every dog's gonna get them.
So, I'm not in favor of that first.
Well, you got, drive around, look at the farm, drive around, there's loose chickens all over the place. Come to my house, you'll see loose chickens.
We're talking about residential use there.
Well, in the title in this section, I heard somebody say, all animals shall comply with the following or something, so you're talking about the whole township.
Okay.
Right, if I may, I just want to remind you a little, one of the comments Ryan made when, you know, his comments were presented in the first round. I think this is a great discussion. Whatever you guys conclude, I would present that as a recommendation to the board to amend the nuisance ordinance.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yes.
So the proper place for these standards would be the nuisance ordinance, but it's a good discussion and a recommendation from you to the board saying, hey, these should be added to the nuisance ordinance, would be the right way to go.
So even just adding those two, the one you said, all animals shall be properly housed and fenced, and then the last one, that to me is something. Like
so you're suggesting putting it here as opposed to amending the nuisance ordinance?
No, I'm saying, put it in the
Yeah.
nuisance ordinance,
I think
but
that's right.
make sure we add it somewhere to
Right.
find that balance.
And I think we can also, you know, in the draft for animal shelter where it says that is of sufficient size to permit free movement of the animals and not be a public nuisance. That way it kind of ties to the nuisance ordinance.
So you're saying at the end of it, animal shelter,
Right.
add those words?
And not to be a public nuisance.
Okay.
I know it's kind of a little redundant because the intent says don't be a public nuisance, but just putting it there.
Okay.
And then we can give this, share these recommendations with the board to see what they think is it. But I do want you guys to discuss a little bit more about setbacks when we're done with this.
So we agreed on number one, we're gonna add those words and not to be a public nuisance. And we're gonna recommend to the board some of Kay's
The
recommendations.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth one,
The sixth one,
all animals, and the very last one.
And the
Those are
last
from other people's ordinances.
correct.
To
Thank you.
consider adding to the nuisance ordinance.
Sounds good to me.
I think the summary is good in itself. I would probably share the whole thing, but then say these two are recommended.
Okay. Setbacks.
Well, feels strongly about this one too. So chickens, they make the same sort of sound as a normal human voice. But if that normal human voice is out there right next to your house and the edge of your property every day, I know they don't talk all day, but, so a little bit of space gives some time for that sound to diminish as it goes across the property lines. And even more important is the smell. So I think we should have setbacks for shelters and fenced-in areas for animals. And I think they should be at least 20 feet, and a lot of these other ordinances use 50. And I think that's reasonable, again, to balance. I live in a rural residential area. I don't want the smell and the sound of these animals to obliterate the wild birds and the leaves through the trees. So just a bit of a setback to provide that space.
Sri, do you have any feel for whether that is an issue now, or are we preventing an issue?
I mean, most of the new complaints we received is animal trespassing.
Okay, so fences.
Right. The current ordinance have 0 setbacks for fences, and for structures, they have to comply with the 30 feet for ag and, you know, whatever it is for R1 and R2.
So maybe I'm thinking specifically about the less than 5 acres too. The less than 5 acres, not the bigger lots. Because that's where the property owners are in closer
For Fence setbacks or,
Fence and structures. So what is it for fences? There's no setback for fences right now.
Zero.
zero for fence?
And I think that's a problem in the smaller lots for animals, being able to put it right on the lot line. And same for the houses. How far back does an animal house have to be?
30 feet.
30, okay. 30
For
feet.
ag district. For R1, it's a different setback.
What is it for R1? So these other ordinances, they have an animal, because it's for animals, so fences for animals, housing animals have a setback, enclosures for animals have a setback, and I think it's to try to balance that sound and smell between neighboring properties.
R1 is 20 feet, ag is 30 feet. Those are the same setbacks for both primary and accessory structures.
So we could make the fence setback in those areas the same for less than 5 acres, so that both the house and the fence are away from the property line.
Right, because a fence enclosure can also be considered an animal shelter, depending on the animal.
How are you gonna treat existing ones? You're gonna be
Yeah, that's
create
right.
a lot of non-conforming
So
situations.
That's
right
what I
now,
was
for
thinking.
under 5 acres, there shouldn't be any fences for animals. Because we don't allow them.
But they might have a shed that they're gonna use for an animal.
Well, then, that's a problem. So on these small lots, if my neighbor really, we're allowing chicken on less than an acre, if they put them right next to me, and I smell them because they're right on the property line, that's a nuisance.
I mean, if it's a legal non-conforming structure, then they are allowed, they are grandfathered, subject to that section of non-conforming. So whatever standards we create would be moving forward.
Okay. Well, presumably we'll have more animals because we're allowing them now moving forward. So the people moving forward then follow these guidelines.
So we're dealing with structure setbacks at the moment, not fence setbacks, which is separate and next.
So I was taking them together. So she said right now, for in ag, it's 30 feet and in
R1 is
R1,
20.
it's 20. So
And
that's,
you think it should be larger than 20, is that what you're
I'm
saying?
saying other people use 50
Well, that's
for less
halfway-
than 5 acres.
That's halfway across the lot.
Not if you have 2 to 5 acres, 1 to 5 acres.
It's halfway across the lot.
If we went to 150,
Yeah,
you just took away 100 feet.
right.
So I think it's the 30 and 20, at least that's something. The sound should go down, maybe to a whisper level.
I think, I'm sorry, the 50 feet is from the neighboring residential dwelling.
Not always, sometimes it's to the property line. So I'm okay with 30 and 20 feet for the structures, but I think we also need the same thing for the fence enclosures for the animals.
Okay, so we're okay with the structures as they are,
Yes,
which is number 2.
if other people are.
I
I
think
think
anything,
there should be an exemption if you don't have a neighbor. Because like my backyard is PR, there's never gonna be a house back there, why can't I have,
That's the L category, waivers.
you know?
That's
That's a
the, if you
waiver.
don't fit.
that's a waiver from not fit. Okay, so we're okay with setbacks, with 20 and 30 on
For
structures.
structures.
Correct. So now we're on the fences, which is number 3. That's a different discussion.
And I think we need setbacks for fences that are enclosures for animals. 20 and 30 feet would be great.
I do want to point out that in R1, if it's a non-conforming lot less than 1 acre, then the side setbacks are 5 feet and 10 feet. 5 on one, 10 on the other. If the lot is less than 1 acre in the R1.
That's pretty close.
But in that case, the net acre would be less than 1 acre.
But we still said they could have 5 chickens. Didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
But,
So the issue is the smell and not having it right on top of your neighbor's property.
but, that's why I'm asking the question, do we have an issue? And I understand that it might happen in the future that somebody moves into you next door to you and wants a chicken. But do we have an issue now?
These chicken, the areas we're talking about, the chickens are allowed there now.
I know that,
But they're already there.
but there are a lot of
A
cases. So,
few, but there'll be more. So I think having the setbacks demonstrates an attempt to balance the rights of the landowners with animals and the neighbors for smell and sound.
Well, 5 chickens, sound doesn't exist. 5 chickens,
I have 6, you guys are on board with that?
sir, there's no comments at this time. You can wait for the next public comment. Thank you.
and if you're smelling 5 chickens on your property, then you got a nuisance, because they're not in a sanitary condition.
Right.
Those 5 chickens, by the time 5 chickens make enough crap, it's gonna dry.
So if we have these other 2 things here, then we can
And under
Address.
nuisance, you should be good.
complaints under
Yeah.
nuisance.
That's why I'm wondering, do you need it here, maybe an amendment to the nuisance ordinance, but not here? You're just dealing with the animals, right?
Yeah, and we talked about the very last one, the sheep covers offensive smells.
Right,
5 chickens, if they create an offensive smell, then you better go to this.
right. That's sort of where I went to. We agree to move it to nuisance ordinance, we make a recommendation of the paragraph to the board.
Thank you for talking about it.
Okay, on to enforcement.
What we said on fences,
Oh, sorry, fences.
we got structures, right?
Yep.
Right.
My opinion is, even though I'm not supposed to have an opinion until I hear from all of you, is trying to set 2 standards on fences, one for a home and one for the fences inside the fence the guy put up, is really hard to enforce and figure out. And I want to know who's going to drive around and go, you got one, oh, I see one chicken, your fence is over there, but let me get my ruler, and I'm going to walk over to your yard, I'm going to pull out my ruler and go, nope, you're 20 feet in.
It wouldn't have come up unless there was a complaint.
That's my point. So fences, I think, is like the setback standards for buildings.
You're gonna have issues with maintenance, you're
Right.
gonna have less people mowing
So, yeah,
around
so-
things, and it's gonna look like.
Yeah, I mean, it's, so I think you leave fences the way it is, and if you want to put something in the nuisance ordinance, that's fine, but I don't know how you put it.
Well, we did say all animals shall be properly housed and fenced so as not to be a public nuisance.
Right,
So I can complain that my neighbor's chickens are too close to the property line and therefore I can smell them, whatever. I actually do want my neighbors to have more animal options. And based on Shree's map, I live in an area, 3 or 4 lots north of me on both sides of my road and 8 or 10 lots down, all have less than 5 acres.
but they can sleep in his cars. I know your next door neighbor.
So I'm okay with having more animals, I just want to find that balance.
We're okay with fences then, to leave it as is, and if it's a nuisance, we go the other direction, correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Enforcement. There have been no changes since our last draft. Anything there?
I think it was, you deleted some stuff, right?
Oh, she
Yeah,
deleted
I
things,
simplified
yes.
it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, yes, there were changes, but it was deletions, not
Additions.
additions or corrections.
Number 3, we need a capital I.
Oh, yeah. Why am I glad you didn't.
I like to leave some in there.
You did that on purpose.
Assuming that everybody looked at this before we came to tonight's meeting, are there any other comments? Are they okay the way they are? Julie says she's in the affirmative. Rick, how do you okay with O, enforcement? Paul's good, okay?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners, for only capitalizing the letter on it. We're moving on to definitions. Fence regulations, 13.60. We talked about this at the last meeting too. In my notes, I showed that this was added at the last meeting, but we ended up being at 10 o'clock. This has not changed from the last draft.
The only addition is that I think the PC talked about the additional height to be extended to vegetable gardens.
Right,
Otherwise, it's the same.
correct. Julie, would you like to make a capital U under unchanged?
Well, I figured that the whole thing was going away because we need a space in between section and 13 in that same sentence. But I was gonna keep my mouth shut on that.
Any changes to sections 13.60 from the last meeting to this one on fence regulations? Good, thank you very much. On to definitions.
So, just reminded, we used to have small and large livestock, we leave them, took those out.
I took them out and then I moved them in the tables as examples of similar size and resource intensity so that they don't have to go back and forth between two sections. Information's right there. Like if you look in page 12,
Okay.
and the reason why I put it in there is there are questions about what about this animal or what about that animal. That way it's right there that says if it's in similar size and resource intensity, it falls in that category.
Where does it say that?
Yeah.
On the title,
On the title of
the row header.
Examples of similar size of research.
I don't see that. Where is it?
Sorry.
It's in the grayed out.
It's the header.
Oh, thank you. Oh, which reminds me, we didn't talk about rabbits. Rabbits was on our question list.
So, pardon me? Pardon me? Oh, it's in the poll for this year.
So how does that relate to the definitions?
Those definitions to here.
I think it's
And then-
just looking at the summary you put together. Sometimes rabbits are hybrid livestock based on its definition, but they're not the same size as livestock, and they're not poultry, they're not, where do they fit?
Sometimes they say
Other
poultry and
pets.
small animals, or if there's classes, class 1, class 2, class 3.
Other organization?
Yeah, other people's ordinances.
Because those are the only, like, if it's a, because they can be kept outdoors as well, not just inside the house, rabbits. So I was just curious, where would they fall, which category would they fall, or would they be like bees, as long as, you keep them the right way, they're permitted.
So the one suggestion in H and I would be to say, okay, like you found in other ordinances, poultry and small animals, and then add rabbits.
Some of them have a general category, and some of them specifically say, chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese, and rabbits.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah,
So if we say poultry and small
rabbits.
animals,
and rabbits specifically.
Just wanted to point out that rabbits can be stacked vertically. as well.
So can chickens.
So do you,
You're right.
I, you
You're
know,
right.
my father kept them. That's why I was saying poultry and other small animals, and then adding rabbits
Yeah,
to the list on the right.
yeah.
so if
In
they
both
have,
cases, H and I.
Yes.
so if they have 5 rabbits, they cannot have chickens.
What?
Because we're saying the maximum allowable poultry is 5 per
Oh,
acre.
right, so
Right.
it's.
So if they have 5 chickens, then they cannot have 5 rabbits.
Yeah, it's 5
I'm
chickens,
just
4
pointing it
turkeys,
out.
4 ducks, 4
Right.
geese, 4 rabbits. Okay,
So-
Okay,
Just pointing it up there so that you can figure out, is that what you want?
then say more, yeah.
Okay.
So where are you putting rabbits? On the left column?
On H and I, yeah, poultry.
Poultry slash rabbit?
And small, where do small, are they rodents?
No.
so under type of animal.
Yes.
Yeah, so under type of animal, we're saying poultry slash rabbits, or
Yeah.
poultry specifically, so poultry slash rabbits.
Poultry and small animals, and then under examples,
Yeah.
red
Say
rabbits.
poultry.
So small animals opens the door for a lot of
Right,
good
so,
things.
so we just call it rabbits?
Yeah,
Poultry and
poultry
rabbits.
slash rabbits.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's livestock, they're small. So we're saying poultry or rabbits?
And rabbits.
Poultry slash rabbits.
Poultry slash rabbits?
Or, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
While we are near the tables, can I just offer one more clarification? Where it says, keeping of animals subject to the maximum allowable densities for each category. Because we're saying each line, like, they can have maximum of 5 poultry, 2 livestock,
Yeah,
each
Right.
category.
yeah. And back on the definitions, what was the conclusion about the livestock definition?
That I took it from Article 2 and then I put it right at the table so that it's all in one place. Because the previous definition just says, small livestock is animals of similar size and resource intensity such as chicken, turkey, and geese, so just put it in here.
I only have one comment there. The D on poultry is bolded.
Italicized.
It's bolded and italicized.
There?
Under poultry, the next word says domesticated, it's bolded and
Oh,
sorry, Julie.
Well, and then in the next line, there's an extra space in between the slash and shelter. So I got one too.
Okay.
But I did have that one.
those were extra credits.
Okay, commissioners, may I have a motion?
May I offer one comment if we may?
Yes, sure.
Most of the comments were very specific corrections, except the waiver section where we kind of left it, a little open. So if the motion's going to be to set a public hearing, I would recommend you separate those, saying that, schedule a public hearing based on the draft as presented with changes as discussed and additional information with regards to flexibility.
So do you want to discuss those things tonight? Or do you want to just add them and talk about them next time and make sure it's included in the motion?
It's up to you. If you wanted to have some recommendations, we can discuss them today. Or if you wanted to discuss more, we can discuss at the next meeting. Or if you're comfortable to set a public hearing with the option that we will discuss at the next meeting, I think it's okay.
I'm not.
You don't want to set the public hearing unless?
No.
It's only 8:35.
Be that as it
Take
may.
a few minutes.
Be that as it may.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with the draft, and for as many times as I've been through it, with as many things as we've again done tonight to set a public hearing.
Oh, but, so the other question was, should we talk about the recommendations for that other section since we're sort of early tonight?
The sections,
The waiver,
The waiver
the
section.
waiver. She said she was going, my note says she's going to rewrite that for our next meeting.
Okay, so you don't want to give her any hints or thoughts or?
okay, I'm okay, I'm just
Okay.
suggesting that is the next public hearing versus regular meeting, that's all I meant.
So we're back to the motion.
I understand that. I'm not, believe me, you've heard me say this more than once, and I really want to move this forward. But we've done too much tonight, I think, to set a public hearing without another review, particularly to look at the rewrite she's going to do on the waivers, which is an administrative function, not a planning commission function. So that has to come from her. So I would like a motion. Anybody got an idea for one? No, I don't say.
So I move to incorporate the revisions to section 13.25 discussed tonight, including the rewrite of the waiver section, and bring it before the planning commission again next time. Oh, I didn't see
And
that.
13.60,
And 13.25, 13.60, and the definitions in Article 2, and bring it back to the next planning commission meeting.
Julie seconded. I don't need a roll call for this, do we? No. Yeah, we do. Roll call, Rick?
Aye.
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 Aye. Discussion? Motion carries. We'll have the draft and rewrite to bring to our next meeting before we have a public hearing. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and work on this. We have no new business before us tonight. I know Kay has a brochure, and we moved the natural committees, natural features committee discussion to this session under discussion items. It's okay. Are you still with us?
Yes. So Linda printed out a folded copy of this. So this is the brochure we've been working on to send out to landowners who own land in the Natural Rivers District, which is on the Huron River and Orange Creek, and also to businesses who might serve those. This was an action implementation item from our master plan, and the board said, yes, we should do this, and asked the Natural Features Committee to spearhead it. We worked with Sri, because obviously this does highlight some setbacks and permits that are required. These are from the state law that was enacted, and that then we incorporated some of that into our own ordinance. These are not new. This is not new. So I gave you some questions to consider. Did that email get in here?
Yes, it should be.
That are a little different than our usual review questions.
Page 31.
Yes.
Page
Page
31.
31.
So the questions are is it clear? So are the key focus areas clear? We couldn't put everything in here. We want people to go to the zoning ordinance or to Sri. Do you have a positive feeling about protecting the Huron River and Orange Creek? We're encouraging people to do to do some things that only they can decide if they want to do them, right? And then any other thoughts about how this connects you to an interest in and desire to protect these natural waterways? So I will say that Eagle Eye Tom noticed that we still had the wrong zoning administrator email in here, and that's being fixed.
See, I did my homework. I did
So,
my stuff.
yes, you
Right,
did,
yeah.
right away. Any thoughts?
Maximum revenue.
So this is an excellent question, and I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. Julie asked me the same thing, so I'm gonna have to follow up on, do you remember what that?
Sorry, my question was on Arms Creek, it says maximum for minimum lot set, minimum lot width, it says maximum. I don't understand that.
Is that what we put in there, or did that get changed? You know what that is?
It just says maximum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just
what
says
does that mean?
maximum. So I'm gonna have to check that, but whatever it says in the ordinance and in the state thing, I don't have it with me.
I'm looking.
Thank you.
That's insane.
Says maximum?
I don't know where that came from. Seems like
I'll go back and check it.
I think it should be 150 feet.
Yeah, same as the other one. That's what I would think off the top of my head.
You pick that out of the ordinance, right?
Yeah, it's out of the ordinance, so we'll fix it and put whatever's in the ordinance. And I think
It's
she's right,
150 feet.
it's 150, so somehow that got changed.
It could be an editing thing. Maybe he was using the word maximum to change that.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, including like, it's beautiful, wonderful?
I think, am I allowed to give a thought? I will give a thought. I think anything we can do to help educate any of our citizens on what's going on in an outreach kind of way, as relying on them to come to us and figure it out, is a good idea. So I applaud this.
The lot width also should say minimum lot width measured at river's edge. Because when you say minimum lot width, they might think it's along the road, but it's actually along the water's edge.
But we can't put everything in here, so we want them to go to the
I mean, it will just be at river's edge.
So does it give you a good impression, a good feel, an encouragement?
Is this going out on behalf of the township?
If you look at the back, it says, brought to you by Webster Township and the Huron River Watershed Council in partnership with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. And these two letters, there's a letter, and it will be from our Supervisor Kingsley and Dan Brown, Watershed Planner.
So,
And we did something like this just to the landowners in, I think, 2016. And now we're doing it again.
so it'll be like with a tax bill or something, or a
It's
separate bill?
only going to those, whatever, 185 people who
Oh.
live in the Natural Rivers District.
Will it then go online so that people can look at it online too?
Absolutely, the brochure will be online, and we'll have some printed copies here, but it'll be online, yes,
I mean, even though people don't live there, I think it'd be a great idea to
yeah.
go, hey, by the way,
Mhm. People who go down the river might want to know what they're
Yeah.
going through.
right,
Okay, thank you very much, unless there's more, thank you.
anything else, commissioners? Questions for Kay, comments? Okay, our next regular meeting agenda, I have two things, well, one, and then another one that Sri brought up just earlier. And she provided a note on, but obviously our animal ordinance is like our old business. And then she had a person who came in and wanted us to get, has an interest in shipping containers, which you'll recall, we had set aside as a separate item from our accessory structures discussion. There was a subcommittee on that. And Paul had made the suggestion before the meeting that it go back to the subcommittee to look at. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I thought we gave comments at the planning commission meeting for the subcommittee.
Right.
That is correct. We just
That's
put a pin on it because all these
Right.
things came up.
So,
Would you like
yes.
to bring it back at the next meeting?
Yes, please. Anything else? Anybody?
You got time for that, Sri, with your road stuff?
Yeah, I'll have to check because we do have the ZBA meeting on August 7th and the special meeting on July 29th. If we can, we'll try our best.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you this, what's faster to bring to the planning commission? Stormwater management or shipping containers?
Shipping containers.
Right?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Oh, that's not water management. We're getting close,
Well,
but you're busy
I mean,
now.
I had that on my list.
Yeah.
And then as we get closer, depending on how things are going, makes
I
sense.
think once we push keeping of animals off the agenda, then we can bring back stormwater management because that is a larger amendment.
Okay. Commissioners, you agree? Okay, thank you. Anything else for August that anybody knows of at this time? Okay. Seeing nothing else for our agenda discussion, would anybody this time like to add any additional public comments? For 3 minutes. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Sorry for the outburst earlier. Robert Singh, 7050 Jenny Road. So I think we talk about chickens. I have 6 chickens. I built a 5x5 house for them, and a 5x15 coop. I haven't cleaned it out in about a month and a half, so I'd like to invite anybody if you want to come over and see what we're talking about in real time. We're just 2 miles down the road off of Jim's Road, so. And then I would put something in there about free range, because if anybody in these residential small areas had chickens and they get in your neighbor's flower box, you have no flowers left. They'll scratch it up and half out you'll have like nothing. So, but the smell isn't as bad unless you really let it go. But I haven't cleaned mine out in probably a month and a half, 2 months, so anyone wants to come and see what we're talking about. And I think the setback should be more distance from the house, because if the house is 200 feet away from the property line, then you're still forcing me to move a chicken coop where I hope it's more the smell of the distance from the house than it is to, I mean, if the house is 20 feet, their house is, whatever it is, 50 feet off the line, I'm on 20 feet. There should be more of a distance from the house for chicken coops than it is just a setback. So, but if anybody wants to come, I'm off Friday, if anybody wants to really get an idea what you're talking about in real time, you can warm up and come over, and I can give you my number after the meeting if you want.
Thank you. Anybody else?
In Chalchenet, 4580 Farrell Road. One thing that I have with the additional rabbits in the poultry section is, it occurred to me, is this section talking about adult animals or all animals? These rabbits, a rabbit will kit have 8 little kits, and if you have 3 rabbits and they all give birth, all of a sudden you have way more rabbits. You plan on killing them before, and to eat before they are of any major size or going to cause much smell. I mean, rabbits start really small, and you usually kill them much smaller than the full size. So that would be the question I would put forward, because it'd be really difficult to keep rabbits without exceeding numbers very quickly in the process of the rabbits.
Thank you. Appreciate that insight.
Peter Stevens, along that same line, and I may have been mistaken, but it seemed as though the planning commission made the decision that there were just going to be no roosters on any properties less than 5 acres, but people can have chickens on those less than 5 acres. So let's say I've got my 4-acre plot of land and I buy myself 20 chickens for that plot of land. At that point, if I'm just ordering them from a breeder, they just come as chicks. Do I just immediately call the boys as soon as I see them and give away half the money that I just spent on chickens? Or can we allow roosters, at least as far as, like Inshaw was saying, even younger as they're developing? Just to say that you can't have any roosters on these smaller plots of land where chickens are allowed, you're asking people to just throw money away that they've spent on chicks. Because you don't order chicks that are just hens. You order 20 chicks, they show up. Some are hens, some are roosters. And just from the discussion I heard tonight, it sounded like I have to call the half of them that turned out to be boys. So I would hope that the planning commission would consider that and change it.
Thank you. Anybody else? We'll close the section on public comment. Any informational items, correspondence, or comments? Supervisor Kingsley, Treasurer Sharp. I have one, and as you might remember, I'm a big proponent of our MTA courses that are available and the lunchtime things that they list. Anyway, last week they had a legislative update that I found very useful. A lot of it was on taxation. However, there is a bill before the House Bill 5438 on short-term rentals. There is one that so far has not affected us on aggregate farms, whether we would abdicate local authority, House Bill 4526 and 4528, on our ability to legislate or manage aggregate farms that want to go in, or pits that want to go in, whether we abdicate that to the state. And K, there was also one, HB 4479 and 4480, and Senate Bill 660 on septic, drain, and stormwater utility codes. So, it's now out there as a recorded, about 48 minutes, I think. You might want to go just take a listen over your lunch hour like I did and get a feel for what the state's thinking about that could affect us relatively quickly. So this will be up to the vote before the year's out.
What's the first title?
Pardon me?
What's the first title?
It's legislative update. It's summer legislative update, I believe is the name of it. That's the only correspondence I have for updates. With that, I have a motion for adjournment.